Welcome everyone to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host, and today we have gathered the whole crew. I believe that we are the Wookiee Liberation Front. Did we decide?
I think there was some debate, Wookiee versus droid.
I mean, they were both really solid in this. But we're here to discuss Solo, a Star Wars story. This will be a spoiler-heavy review/discussion. So if you haven't seen it, please stop the podcast now. And what?
Just kidding.
And come back to the podcast once you've seen it, because we don't want to ruin anything for you. And yeah, there was some cool spoilers in this, which we will of course get to. So with me today, and just going from my right to left on my screen, we have Ty Black.
Hello.
We have Liam Rathgeber.
Hello again.
And we have James Dalton.
Hello, everybody.
James is last because he had trouble joining. Overall, I wanted to start with overall impressions first. And since, Ty, what were your overall impressions of Solo?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was really, really fun. It felt like a Indiana Jones movie. Indiana Jones movie.
Indiana James.
James is like
Indiana Jones's weird cousin.
Yeah, no, it was a really cool adventure movie, and it was totally different than any other Star Wars movie I've ever seen. So that's why I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. Liam, overall impressions?
I thought it was really good. Yeah, it definitely did have that sort of Indiana Jones feel to it, that it was kind of high adventure. And the tie-ins were very well done. They weren't they didn't seem forced like they have been in certain other properties. That they were very much more organic, and I am very much now looking forward to a Lando movie because Donald Glover was amazing in it.
Totally.
James?
He outlandoed Billy D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of torn on it. There was a whole lot of good and a whole lot of I didn't like it that much. It's still in the math game for me. I enjoyed it, but it as far as I'm concerned, it sort of felt like it was a bunch of disconnected stories that sort of got jammed together. And I really am kind of curious exactly how bad it was before Ron Howard got involved. Because if this is what he managed to pull out of it, how bad was it beforehand? Because that guy has a Midas touch in the movies.
Yeah.
Well, I did say that he reshot something like 80% of it, so it should mostly be his movie at this point.
And that's like to what I felt. I actually felt like the first bit of it was so trope driven. So like with the two kids growing up in the street, and like just the whole setup really struck me as very tropey, and not something fell flat about the beginning 20 minutes. Right?
You literally just managed to describe how I felt about a lot of the movie there. That was,
yeah.
I've been trying to put my finger on it for
like
a couple of days.
It was like they were trying to pull on these things so that it all felt familiar. And especially the beginning really suffered from that. And then there was a bit of, it felt like missing motivation with some of the characters. And I can go into that when we get into kind of later on with some of the themes and some of the, character driven choices and stuff like that. And that struck me as very odd. Did I like it? Yes. Did I have fun? Was it a fun adventure? And would I definitely go see it again multiple times? Yes. I was actually very disappointed I couldn't get to go see it again before we recorded this, because I felt like there was so many cool things, and the music was really fascinating, and the world building, especially with the droids, which I am incredibly happy there was so much droid stuff. Just
and such
in general,
good
like,
droid stuff.
Yeah.
Good droid stuff. Yeah. And like Liam sat next to me in the theater, and I think I was bouncing at
I have never experienced Marie-Claire experiencing new Star Wars before, and I can say that you watch Star Wars very actively.
That's awesome.
And normally I'm like way more chill, but there was so much droid stuff that I was just excited, like beyond excitement. But yes, no, I loved the movie, but it fell flat at parts. I mean, it still is a Star Wars movie, which means that it's amazing. So
yeah, I want to say something.
My bar is very
about
low.
the trope stuff. I actually really, really liked the first half of the film because of the tropes. And I know it sounds kind of weird, but me and my husband talked a lot about this. We were like, okay, it's weird because it's kind of unoriginal, but at the same time I loved it. So like I loved the intros, I loved the character intros, I loved the silly stuff, and I don't know why. I don't know, maybe because that's how I recognize Star Wars compared to other audiences.
Yeah, and it could be because they were trying to pull in, a different group of people into Star Wars. That tropes make, it's just like using John Williams music. It makes it feel classic and grounded in reality, even though it's in space.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and...
Well, I'll give it this for the first half. My problem was the fact that some of the tropes they tried to do weren't built up enough. I mean, you've got this entire crew of smugglers, and they're supposedly a tight knit, and then they introduce Han Solo. And then they tried to do a dramatic ending for a couple of the characters to help drive his. Mm-hmm. But you've known them for what? 5 minutes
I totally agree with that, by the way. I had issues with... I did not have issues with killing off a character in order to drive another... Or not to drive, but to make a point, I guess, for our main character. Mm-hmm. I like that, but I agree that they kind of doubled down on it too soon into the film, and they didn't take enough time for us to care. But when Val died, I did tear up quite a bit because of Woody Harrelson's really great performance. I don't know.
See, and I didn't mind that as much because I don't have an issue with implied backstory and with, okay, we've just sort of, we've shown you enough to know that the relationship is there, but we don't have to spend 20 or 30 extra minutes spoon feeding you this. That just, here's the crew, here's their relationships, just accept that it's there. So I thought that they built it up just fine by my standards.
My issue is the fact that they were supposedly affecting Solo, who had known them for about 20 minutes. That was
Well, that's kind of standard for Star Wars. Oh, Luke, the people that raised you from a child have died. Oh, hey, Luke, the guy that you've known for a couple of days died.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty standard. You're right. Good point, Liam. For me personally, the campfire. I actually felt like it was okay that they only knew them a little while because you got the campfire scene, and the campfire scene did everything. It built up the relationships in the crew, how Solo and Chewbacca were just as a side point, how amazing is Solo's name now?
A lot of people don't like it.
It's
a
awesome.
lot of people had issues with
Whatever.
it. I loved it.
That's like but that's like a classic immigrant thing.
A lot of people are going to have issues
America
with everything.
And they couldn't pronounce your name, so they wrote down Smith because that was your job. I love that. That was a great detail, and to me it even makes it you are who you choose to become, kind of. It's really, really got an interesting theme along those lines. And
the way they did it in the movie, for me, him just sort of this Imperial officer saying, well, you need a last name, so you're by yourself, here's a name for you. And him going, yeah, okay, and then moving forward with it kind of illustrated the way that that Han Solo as a character just rolls with what is going on around him and is very much a product of his environment and a product of his experiences.
Yeah, Marie-Claire always made the point that Han never had his I want moment in any of the movies, and he didn't really have it. Well, he kind of had it in this movie, but it was more of a product of what's happened to him than it was him really looking inside and having an inner struggle. So I don't know. I thought it was totally appropriate.
Well, he got it in Last Shot, when we talked about that book.
Oh, he for sure got it in Last Shot, but
he also didn't get it in this movie, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I want is like the musical term for when the main character comes on screen and says, I need a change. I want something. And the closest we get to Han getting an I want moment is that he wants things to stay the same, sort of. You know, like he wants Kira and he wants to be with her and all of that, right?
Because it was probably...
and that worked out well.
Exactly.
No. Do you want to go through kind of the overall plot arc together?
Sure.
We started on Corellia, and Corellia is known for, I guess, crime and building ships.
It's the port city, the shipbuilding yards.
Oh, okay, cool.
And all sorts of stuff happen outside of the docks where, you know, when you're kind of dealing with a greedy element, that is very much they took it from a small, you know, portside town to, well, we'll just make the whole planet that way.
And very quickly we see that him and Kira are growing up as street rats, which I think they actually even call them that, which was interesting. And they're part of the White Worms gang, which you don't find out in the movie, but that's the gang they're part of, which was so cool. That like gang organization. And they've been trying to get out of there was like a sector that they were trapped in, I believe.
Yeah, that's sort of I took it not so much as the sector, but as the planet.
Yeah.
And in order to get out of it, they had to get into the shipyard and then get on board an outbound ship. Mm-hmm. And the Empire is like, no. You can't get in. You know, we're trying to keep the crime out unless you pay.
Well, and we find out later on when he's speaking with Lando that that his dad was a former shipbuilder. Like he built the YT freighters, so he could have potentially worked on the Millennium Falcon.
I thought that was such a cool thing because of Rey like knowing ships and, you know, having her hands on ships and the like. Secret that was so cool. Like he, as soon as he dropped that, yeah, my dad used to work on the ships, and you know, oh, okay, there's a crap ton of parallels here. Like they couldn't have dropped a more subtle hint. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think that we'll talk about that when we get to larger canon. But yeah, no, that was a big like what moment.
Yeah.
So Han ends up stealing some. Oh God, you're gonna have to help me. It's the fuel, like refined fuel, quadraxium.
That sounds right.
And it's refined hyper matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's
the stuff that allows ships to move.
Yeah, they're making. They keep trying to do this with every Star Wars movie and everything that's canon, comics, books. They keep trying to make more sense out of like hyperdrive and how it works. Which is so funny because before it just was a plot device. You know, your travel should go at the speed of the plot, should move at the speed of the plot, and they're now trying to actually make sense of it, which is great because it gives them more story fuel, if you will.
So, and the little like container was worth like 600 credits or something like that. But then it like was worth way more later on. I don't know why.
Different amount in the container.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was bigger containers and they had multiple crystals in them, and it was several cases of them.
Yeah.
And so he steals it. He gets in trouble. He lies to the worm lady, and then burns her, and is on the run with Kira. I'm
going to add this in there at that point. That's actually the first time we sort of get the intro to Solo. As far as I was concerned, that's the actual insight into Solo. He always tries to come across in the movies. I've always seen him as he's a planner. Sorry, attention internet, I just made air quotes. But he's more of an opportunistic bastard.
Yeah.
I mean, he's sort of the scummy guy, but it's like, no, he just got his ass handed to him by somebody who tried to steal it. He got away barely. And he's like, but I've still got the fuel. Oh, I got an opportunity. I'm just going to stuff this in my pocket and try to get away with something here. And that's sort of what he keeps trying to do in every single movie.
Yeah, escapes by the skin of his teeth and then tries to look cool like it was all...
It was all planned.
No, I meant to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that we got that. And Alden Ehrenreich, like, embodied... like the spirit. He didn't do like a Han Solo caricature. He did this like really amazing like embodiment of this spirit of this character, which I think why it was so successful.
Yeah.
Well, it's also supposed to be before, like, there's got to be more coming. I'm thinking, because it's. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of the wording of this. It's a case of it's starting out in one place, but this isn't the Solo we meet in Episode 4. But it kind of fits because there's got to be some character growth.
Yeah, and we can get to that later on. That I think this is. Even Ron Howard has said this. If it does well, it's open to a trilogy. Which is like, what?
Yeah, if a Star Wars movie does well, that's a pretty big gamble there.
I know. Well, I think it'll be fine.
You guys weren't trooping the theaters on Friday. It's not
sure
doing
weren't.
so great.
Really?
It's behind Rogue One for opening weekend.
It's also opening in the middle of spring, which isn't exactly a big movie time. People are outside doing things, so this isn't the movie season.
And it was up against a lot of competition, like Deadpool 2 and Infinity War. So we'll see. Yeah. I think a good test of it will be second weekend. What is the, what people hear, and then what who's going to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then so they get to the Imperial shipyards. They're going through basically customs, I guess. And, you need to have your ID, and they, they're being chased by the gangsters, and they try to sneak past the customs and border immigration person effectively, and sneaker the fuel to get past, and Kira gets stuck on one side of the gate. Han gets stuck on the other side of the gate. And that scene was really good. And the dice were there. The dice were with her.
The one thing I liked about that scene too, the fact that the criminals step in, and it's kind of indicating what the big problem with the Empire is, because the criminals step in. Like I can't remember the guy's name, but he's calling over the stormtrooper for some backup. Somebody's on the payroll.
Yeah. And that border person was totally willing to take a bribe.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that scene, all of my speculation for the movie literally went out the window. Like, as soon as I saw Han get separated from Kira in that manner with the crime syndicate type stuff, and I was like, okay, everything I initially thought were going to be the themes for this movie are gone. Right?
Well, that's something they did a very good job of. The trailers were really good, and they were really misleading.
Yes.
Which I always appreciate that it was not the movie that I expected it to be.
I called it though, Ty. I said, this is Star Wars. You don't know what you're going to get when you watch this trailer.
It was my first time ever speculating from anything, ever. I've never done it before. The first time was with this movie, with you, Marie-Claire. And I was pleasantly surprised. I was really happy. I was like, I'm so glad we broke down a trailer, really like speculated certain things, because now like the next time we do it, I'm going to be so much more excited, I guess, for being surprised. I mean, I was excited for being surprised and seeing what actually happened. It was super, super fun. So yeah, it was cool.
And then Han joins the military.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to call out one thing, and maybe we can discuss it a little bit. Han does things with good intention.
Totally.
He's part of a criminal element to help Kira and be with her. He wants to escape and steal this quadraxium, I hope I'm saying that correctly, to run away with her. He joins the military so he can come. Coaxium. Thank you, James.
Hyperfuel.
But he joins the military so he can come back and save her. He joins this smuggling enterprise so that he can come back and save her. He is constantly doing things with the intention of trying to be a hero.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
while looking like a villain.
He is.
I mean, joining the
And he's just the core
military
of who
is
he
not
is.
technically like trying to be a villain.
It was the Empire.
Yeah,
He's trying to be
but
cool.
That everyone knew are the bad guys.
Han doesn't see the Empire as the bad guys, not necessarily, because I mean, he's seen a lot worse people on the streets, I'm sure.
It's an opportunity he's taking. He's on the other side of the gate, but he has no ticket off-world. The only thing that did was get him through the gate. He has to figure out what the next step is. So he can either try to sneak on board a ship. He can either, maybe try to romance a woman into taking him. Or he can, because, that works out so well for him in other movies. Or his third option, which is, hey, look, they'll train me to be a pilot and I can get back here in a few years.
yeah.
Let's go with this chance.
I like the happy Imperial March. We've heard it before. We've heard a version of that before in Star Wars Rebels, but hearing it again, like just as a little snippet as the recruitment poster, was amazing.
That's what that was. Yeah, I don't have an ear for it as much as you
it's
do.
like da, 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 da. And I was like bouncing again. Poor Liam.
Well, and it sounded like they had taken a lot of the old like classic Star Wars music and played it on the sharps to make it a little bit more upbeat.
Like they moved it to a major
You definitely
scale.
you definitely knew the song. It was just in a slightly different key.
And moving things from like minor in so the Imperial March is set in a minor key, and when
Yeah.
they move it to a major key, it sounds happy and upbeat. and yeah, we did hear a version of that in on Empire Day in Star Wars Rebels. They did a version of that, which was in celebration of the Empire. So it's kind of a nice little callback. One of the first callbacks you get to, I mean, other than kind of seeing the other aliens and, seeing Corellia, all of these kind of callbacks to larger canon.
Mm-hmm.
So he joins the military and sucks at it, apparently, because he ends up becoming an infantryman, which they wear different armor. James, what's going on?
That's actually one of the parts that I really liked, and that explains something that a lot of people don't understand. Excuse me while I drop my geek, folks.
Yes, please do.
The stormtroopers are the elite of the Empire. They are they're the special ops guys. They're the ones who are excelled above and beyond. And then there's the guys who go out onto the battlefield and die. Okay, yeah, they mix together at that point, but. And that's just it. There's a whole lot of general troopers. These are the grunts who are hoping to someday get the white armor.
Yep.
That sort of makes sense.
And the white armor is like they're kind of like the special forces or the Navy SEALs. Like they're kind of like those guys, the guys they send in to just get stuff done.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of deal with like these standard. There's a standard infantryman, then there's the specialists, who that's sort of that, and then you sort of deal with the fun stuff, which is the next couple of steps up, which are like the biker scouts, which are the advanced scouts, and they've got their own type of, and then they sort of branch out from there into the different types of specialties.
Well, on when he was running away from like the police or the cops or whatever, on when he first stole the speeder, there was a scout trooper, but
The new biker scout.
but no scout trooper helmet. I was like, James, what's going on?
Let's not forget, this is 20 years ahead. This is probably about 20 years ahead.
Yeah.
This takes place, give or take a bit before. I'm sort of timing it a bit before Star Wars Rebels, but not much.
From my reading, it's between Clone Wars and Rebels.
So it's 13 years before the Battle of Yavin 4. And when it starts, and then it's about 3 years after that when the main events of it happen. So there's about a 3-year jump between the running away and joining the military and when he catches up with Beckett's crew.
And I mean, so what we're seeing different, like it's the different armors. I mean, this is well before this. I mean, during the Clone Wars, you saw 4 different evolutions of armor. You see different evolutions of armor in the original trilogy. So this just takes place before, and it's a new movie. They need to introduce new armor.
Exactly. No, it was good. I liked it. I was like, oh, I caught this helmet. That's cool.
I got a friend who wants that armor already.
And he was in some sort of battle. Did we catch where he was?
Yes, we did, and I think I should have seen it more than once to be able to remember it. Mud Planet X.
Is that actually what it's called?
No, I'm calling it Mud Planet
Okay,
X.
Mud Planet X. And so he's unhappy with the military and the orders, but he's kind of stuck in his situation. He wants to get out, but being a deserter comes with a kind of a different sort of set of problems. What did you guys think of this whole like military? It was very, it felt very like World War II, you know?
Yeah, it felt really low tech to me, especially for, being set a long time ago.
Even World War I, like in the
They
pits.
pulled a lot of trench feel from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what they've been trying to do that between Rogue One and this, and it's the military campaign is not space battles and stuff. You want to take a planet, you got to land.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take the troops out because you can only do so much. The fleet can't class the planet easily.
And he brings up like, well, this isn't our planet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're the bad guys here.
Yeah. So he certainly does have a moral compass that he still has at this point.
He always had it.
Oh,
That
yeah.
never left.
Oh, yeah.
He always did the right thing. Just required a tap on the side of the compass.
Yes. Yes. And so he spots Beckett, who's in captain's armor. And Beckett has this beautiful hole right in his armor, right where his heart is, which is like the most incredible foreshadowing. Because obviously he's stolen this armor from somebody he shot. And that's where Tobias Beckett ends up getting hit later on.
He does?
Spoiler. And then he ends up kind of following him, but getting in trouble because he's like, he gets turned in and we get thrown into the pit with the monster.
The beast.
Yeah, it felt like a bit of a callback to something.
I was like, oh yes, we're gonna get like a Rancor type scene, and then I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, he was definitely thrown in that pit with some rancor.
Oh man. So what did you guys think of this scene? Like, because of an introduction to Chewbacca.
I loved it. I love that because Chewbacca was always seen as like an animal in the original trilogy, but there was always that little bit of humanity that he brought in certain scenes, and they definitely played with it more throughout the original trilogy. Towards like in Empire Strikes Back, you got to see a little bit more of his humanity. So by introducing him as like a monster made so much sense because it fits his not character arc, because Chewbacca's always just going to be there. I think Jonas, the guy who plays him now, is that how you say his name? Jonas? Is it?
I think it's a soft J. I think
Jonas? Whatever.
Jonas.
He's fantastic, but he said that the way you play Chewbacca is like kind of like an animal, but it's always aware and always present. Like he knows what's going on, but he's kind of always in his own little world. So an animal, whenever, they're in like certain situations, they don't look at it as a human does. They don't look like, they're not like leaning forward and curious. They're kind of like back and like, oh, what is happening? So having him be like a beast and the monster, and then slowly kind of when Han starts talking to him in his own language, it's like, this is kind of cool. There's nothing in the real world that exists like that. So you kind of have to...
I got one point on that. Well, when Han spoke to him in his own language, that settled probably one of the biggest things we've been saying for years. Well, why do they need translator droids if everybody speaks every language? Everybody doesn't. They just covered that there. Chewie stopped. He's like, wait, hold on. You speak Shriwook? Hey, I remember the language. Chewie just stopped. It's one of those things like when you make a noise at a dog and they sort of go, huh?
Yeah.
You speak my language? But that covered it. It's like no, Han just happens to, speak a bunch of strange languages. And if you hang around somebody long enough, eventually you're going to learn to speak some words of theirs and they'll understand you.
Yeah.
I like that scene where it's like, oh, okay. But I love the exit scene where, let's get you out of here. Whoa! Throws him up and over.
Yeah. Liam, what do you think?
I can see that there's going to be some fallback from this scene because it has changed the way that Han and Chewbacca met. That
from EU, right? From
the
Legends,
way that the way that they've done that, and it was one of the scenes that when Han started speaking in
Shriwook?
Yeah, in that. Sorry, I don't speak it, so the fact that they have never shown that before, it was always something that they've done throughout the entire franchise, was that people just speak their own languages and other races and other people just happen to understand. So when he started to make Wookiee noises, that bit kind of fell flat to me. It might as well have had the subtitle on there saying, "I need to get back to Martha." It's just...
Well, and like what was weird was that they translated
Han but not Chewie.
Yeah, like it was that struck me as a little weird, but for the most part I really liked this scene.
I liked the scene other than that bit.
Yeah, I actually was okay with the translation and like him speaking it and then being like too lazy because they both understood each other in the future. But definitely some people don't understand Chewbacca. That's very apparent. Like like not everybody understands Chewbacca, and he certainly spoke enough Shriwook to get by, right?
But they could have done it with Chewbacca just growling and warbling something out and Han replying accurately. It's like how they showed in Infinity War, how they showed that Thor understood Groot. Was that Groot, "I am Grooted" at him, and he replied. And they're like, "Oh yeah, well I learned that language when I was in school." Done, without it being kind of
super weird,
goofy, because anytime a person is making Wookiee noises, it comes across as goofy.
It does, yeah. I felt really bad for the costumers of
Chewbacca.
Of Chewbacca's fur and having to get all of that mud and gross out of Chewbacca, but that led to, when they eventually get to the ship, the most fantastic scene of them having a shower together.
I was gonna say their chemistry to me made up for any weird, awkward, lines or anything. Like their chemistry was just spot on throughout all of it. It's hilarious.
I'm actually really excited to see Chewie in episode 9 because of what feels like how much the character of Chewbacca with Hunus has like come full circle. Like, because we commented when we watched episode 8 all together, the guys and I, that he felt a little awkward at points in the suit.
Hashtag not my Wookiee.
but now he totally feels like, Chewbacca, and now it just has to like, he has to be like old Chewbacca or older Chewbacca. And, he was 190 in this movie, so.
Yeah, but he looks great.
He does look great.
So good.
I love that shower scene. I have no idea why that
was.
Well, because it kind of did show the cultural differences of this is something that for humans would be very awkward, but for another race is just this is communal.
It's a shower.
Grooming.
What's
it's
the problem?
something that they do. Yeah,
and also kind of showed like that Han was now like part of Chewbacca's family in
part
a way.
Of his clan.
Yeah, and because like at one point he's like, it's either people or family. I can't tell. Like it was kind of a good line. So we run
but not the best line.
Yeah,
because we've glossed past the best line in the movie where they're getting together there. The smugglers are going to accept him, and they see, well, yeah, here's this kid, but he's got a Wookiee with him. And there is no sounder sleep than curled up in the lap of a Wookiee.
I know. I was going to come back to that.
I love that line. I want to get that as a tattoo.
So cute.
Yeah, Rio was a good, like for how little he was actually in the movie, he made like a huge impression. Same with Val, like these two crew members.
Well, I didn't realize until afterwards when I could finally look up the spoiler stuff that Rio was John Favreau.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty obvious, but
Yeah.
Well, I knew the voice, but I just couldn't place it.
I found that out before I came, so I was just really excited.
Yeah.
But
it was funny.
yeah.
I've had a busy weekend. I haven't had a chance to actually do the research on this, but that's amazing.
Yeah, he was so good. And like the best lines, like the best one-liners, they made space for his lines. It was great. What did we think of Val and Tobias Beckett?
I wanted more.
Mm.
This is the part where we were talking beforehand where I said that almost felt like it should have been later in the movie after we sort of saw them together some more. That makes sense to you guys? It felt like, that their relationship was amazing, which, it could have been something really cool. You sort of see them together, which would have made the train heist scene a little bit more poignant for the audience.
But you're driving the main character. So, like, the point of Val's death and the point of, like, Beckett and Val's relationship was to show Han what works and what won't work for, like, that kind of life, that kind of lifestyle. Like, like, if you and Kira, like, Beckett keeps trying to tell him, like, if you and Kira try to make this work, like, it's not going to work. And through an example, he's showing him, like, it's, like, Val died, like, Kira might die, you might die, like, if you're gonna try to live this life together, that's the reality of it.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about the themes of love and family in this movie, but I'm gonna save all of that till we get to themes.
While we're on the topic of Val and Beckett, I really liked both characters.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the character of Val, and I agree that I would have liked to see more of her. But Beckett was fantastic, and I loved Woody Harrelson in the role. But doing the reading afterwards, finding out that Beckett was originally supposed to be cast as Christian Bale, I have to wonder just how different it would have been.
No, that's really interesting that it was Christian Bale originally, and they're Christian Bale and the actress who plays Val. They would have been closer in age.
Andy Newton.
But yeah, I have to wonder what the character would have been like with Christian Bale in the role, because Woody Harrelson was brilliant in it. Mm-hmm. But who knows? Because Christian Bale, he's a great actor, and he really throws himself into a lot of characters really well. So it could have been equally or more amazing.
Yeah, it could have been, and I would say the best thing about Woody Harrelson in this movie, other than like the acting and his character and everything like that, was the fact that I didn't get caught up in the fact that it was Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
Like, it was great.
Well, he did bring some warmth to the role.
Yeah.
That he was very much, he's the bad guy and he's the criminal and all that, but he is very much a mentor and kind of a life coach for
and
Han.
Christian Bale's a nightmare to work with on set, so
maybe that was the reason.
He has trouble getting work these days.
Oy.
Yeah.
So, Val, what do we think?
Who doesn't like Thandie Newton? She's amazing. Like,
yeah,
I have to say
awesome.
though, I don't like it when people try to talk about, who's the woman who plays Phasma? Gwendolyn Christie. Oh, she's never used. She was done such a disservice. And they're saying the same thing for Thandie Newton. She's so good. She should have had more time on screen. It's like, just because an actor is a really good actress doesn't mean that they deserve a lot of time or a lot of lines. Like, the reason why Gwendolyn Christie is put in that suit is because she's a good actress and she could act through that costume. And the reason why Thandie Newton got that role is because she could she was the character. They saw her as that character. So Max Van Sydow in The Force Awakens was in there for 5 minutes. So she got way more play than that, and she fulfilled a really important purpose, I think, from the themes of the movie. So no, I think she did what she needed to do. She was competent, which was awesome. She just was kick-ass, and I wish I could pull off some sort of cosplay for her, but I can't. I would love to see her backstory. Basically, I want to know more. That's and if you're gonna have a small character part like that, and you walk away wanting to know more, that's where the comics, that's where the books. Like, she could get a book, and I would read it like crazy. So
Yeah, she did the job that she was hired to do, and the character accomplished what the character was
Exactly.
there to accomplish.
Oh, and I'll put this out there. She was in there, like, they picked a lot of really amazing actors for this movie. So actors and actresses. It really showed everybody owned the role. Every character on the main was a huge standout. That's something that was, there were no real background characters, which was kind of a weird feeling in the movie. There
was no lackluster performances whatsoever. Like, everybody did a
There was something
job.
I said about Rogue One, which was that it was trying to be an ensemble cast when an ensemble cast was not necessary. And I think when Rogue One came out, like, there was like Suicide Squad, which was trying to be this ensemble superhero movie. So, and I felt like they were trying to do the same thing, and it just wasn't working. But this movie proves that you can do an ensemble cast. But although they did kill off some of that pretty early on and focused on certain characters, they did it correctly. Like, they gave you very different characters. I didn't feel like any of them needed to be combined, and I didn't feel like any of them needed to just not be there. I thought they were all pretty necessary. Even Jon Favreau's character, who I've kind of wrestled with over the last few days, like whether or not he was necessary. I like it.
Comedic relief.
Comedic relief.
Yeah.
Well, comedic relief, plus he was the character that needed to die in order for Han to move forward as a pilot in that crew. Like, he was there kind of as a stepping stone, but it was a necessary
and to make us feel
role.
bad for again alien species, droids. You know, they're not people, but we. Like, when he died, it was like really sad. It was like, oh, he's still trying to fly the thing, but he can't. He's pretending like he's okay when he's not. It was sad.
And the adoption of Han into the crew was really well done, because it was like, you know, oh, he's got a Wookiee like that. You brought that up earlier. Yeah.
He's got a Wookiee and we're shorthanded. That's
awesome.
all it took.
Yeah, and then he was able to actually prove himself as a pilot later on. But like, so let's get to the train heist scene, which was like, why was this train built?
So cool.
I mean, it's a cool train, but like, why this? Like, with the ability to literally fly things out of the atmosphere.
Well, that and it. With the leaning of the track and it having to lean to go around corners, except if that was necessary, then they wouldn't have slid off every time it leaned, because it would have leaned because of the G-forces and everything would have stayed stable. So it was actually just, it might as well have been going in a straight line and just flopping back and forth because of the speed versus what it was doing.
It was a weird choice. It was cool looking. Suspension of disbelief. I really liked.
Can I just say something about the train? That I honestly believe that it was either designed by a woman or like with women in mind, because it was a sexy train. Is that like a weird thing to say?
Why do you what do you mean by that, Ty?
I mean, like, just the way that it moved and stuff. It was very like, that's not, men don't design things look like that.
It as trains go,
Thank you.
Was very sensual.
It was a sensual train. I thought it was really visually interesting, and I really liked the scene where he's facing off against the troopers with the mag boots, and he goes behind, like the camera follows him as he goes behind the door. It was that was such a cool visual scene.
I really liked it, and I'm still sort of torn because I liked it better in Firefly.
Oh!
Yeah, I was waiting for the right moment to make a best train heist in space scene since Firefly.
A lot of that movie felt like Firefly. My husband said the same thing when we came out of it. He's like, there's some scenes I could have like taken right out of that show, especially with like the clothing and whatnot.
But if you think about the parallels of the characters, Firefly is really the natural reference point for it, because Han Solo would have fit in perfectly on Serenity.
Totally.
Yeah, and like occasionally in the soundtrack, like, as I've listened to the soundtrack twice now through, there is like this guitar twang, especially when like Tobias Beckett is on. He's basically Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly, but like an old grizzled man. And especially with his long coat, like it feels very brown coaty, and and this train heist was way more visually interesting.
Totally.
Bigger budget.
Well, of course, yeah. And like, sorry, go ahead.
To defend the comparison, in 99.9% of cases, saying this was a lot like Firefly is going to be a good thing.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
The only way you could say this was a lot like Firefly and have it be a bad thing is if partway through the third act, Fox canceled the movie.
It's very true. Yes. Did not happen. So good stuff. But like Ty, you called it. Like we talked about it. We're like the train is going to explode. Something's going to explode.
Yeah,
it's going to fall
a car,
apart.
but then they drop the car that they take. Oh yeah, totally call it all that.
It had all of that. Yeah, and I liked how Chewbacca was just kick ass the whole time. And we get the cool introduction to the Cloud Riders, and I've been pronouncing her name wrong the whole time. Yes. Enfys Nest.
Yeah.
Who comes on, and you hear this like really cool like chanting music. And whenever she's on screen,
that was nuts.
It's amazing.
That was nuts. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I should have been paying a little bit more attention to the score up until this point. I actually don't think my theater was not loud enough. I'm just saying, the guy next to me laughing was much louder than the music. I couldn't hear the music because he was laughing so loud, which would have been fine if it was turned up louder. But I did hear that part, and it was what did somebody say? It was it was a Bulgarian opera or chorus, and a Bulgarian chorus that was singing. That was awesome.
I thought it was wicked. I loved it. I walked away from the theater remembering Han's theme, how much they played the main theme, which was a ton, because I kept on poking Liam and going, the main theme. And so Han's theme, the main theme, was played just a ton, and then these chanting women
was
everywhere.
Didn't the Falcon theme did play, correct?
Oh yeah,
okay,
I'm going to talk about that at some point.
I think the first time Han took the controls was when they just
that was the one I
made
kept
it
recognizing it, and it was kind of distracting, but.
So there was the actual Falcon theme that was written for the Force Awakens. There was that. There was the asteroid chase music from Empire Strikes Back, and the main theme, and the battle fanfare, which is part of the main theme.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Tons. I actually thought I heard the Force theme at one point, but I didn't.
I would have thought that too.
Yeah.
But I have to agree with Ty about the music at times could be a little bit distracting, because these familiar songs from the original trilogy popping up just at poignant moments, like it was used well, but it almost came across almost like a cameo. That you know, it's cool to have that music come up, but it's kind of like, well, and there's Stan Lee. It's just it takes you out for a second.
Well, I'll give it this, because my friend is actually he works on movies, and he knows a lot more about this than I do, and he made a Facebook post. So this is from my friend Peter. I'm stealing it right off his page. The problem with he found, and I agree with, is some of the stuff for the music was way too overpowering on the scenes, and the other stuff, like whenever they were doing the, like you said, the Stan Lee cameo, but whenever they were trying to do their own stuff with this movie, it was almost too quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like there was just too big of a, it was like, wow, we're gonna whisper and yell, and there's gonna be no conversational level stuff happening.
It was almost like
it
was almost
weird.
like they were trying to hide the fact that they don't have John Williams. But they did. They did. But the other composer had really great.
John Powell?
There was some really good stuff in there that I could not hear.
So John came in, and he wrote The Adventures of Han Solo, or Han, The Adventures of Han, which was the main theme for Han. So you heard it everywhere, and it It is beautiful. I highly recommend that you pick up the soundtrack. This soundtrack is so interesting. There's layers upon layers. John Williams wrote not only his own themes that they plugged in places, which you can hear, but also apparently when he met with John Powell, he said, "Oh, I've written you some tunes." And John Powell was like, and so it's a combination of his music, but it is the mixer and the music editor that makes a decision on where the score is used. So it's not John Powell. It is the
I thought
audio editors that make the choices.
The sound mixing in a couple of scenes, I was like, I don't know if it's the theater that I'm in. I don't know if it's the amount of people. But it very well could have been. I need to go see it again in a smaller theater with fewer people chomping down on popcorn and with fewer people laughing right next to me for everything. I mean, I was laughing too, but this guy was like, and then he was foretelling things. Like, he was like, oh, this is going to, I'm like, oh God, you got to stop. You got to stop. You got to stop. But my theater experience.
Our theater was.
I can't imagine trying to watch this movie with somebody really excited sitting next to me.
That would have been fine, but this is one of
weird.
Those kind of fanboy kind of thing going on where he was like really like trying. He was like, "Oh, I know what's going to happen because I read all the spoilers online," kind of thing. You know, like that was kind of frustrating. But anyways, I don't know. I felt like there was a couple of scenes, especially with the which we'll get to, the Kessel Run. I thought the sound mixing was not very good there. And again, it could just be because I saw it one time, but
and it could be like how the volumes were turned up in your theater. Like I used to work at a theater and they have like kind of like presets that they're supposed to use. And if the things were like off at all, it could have been, I felt like the sound was fine in our theater. Our audience was weirdly quiet. I laughed way more than our audience laughed. Hey, Liam.
Yeah, there was quite a few times where it was just you. So the audience is trying to watch.
I laughed. Oh, okay. We'll get there.
Okay, so train heist, we see Emphy's nest. There's a big fight. And Tobias like really has this hate on. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Enfys nest. And Tobias has this like hate for her so much. And she keeps on destroying things. They have a tug of war over the train. Val explodes herself, which was I think that showed how much she loved Tobias.
And that's what it was.
I think.
Well, no matter what happened, she was gone anyway. Those droids were going to pick her off, or she was going to blow up and get the job done.
Yeah.
She knew it was the end.
Yeah.
So might as well get the job done.
And Rio getting shot and like still trying to like pilot, and oh man, I love these characters even though we only got like little bits of them, you know. And then we get to see Han take over, and he has to make a choice because if he tried to fit through that mountain, it probably would have exploded and taken the ship with them. So he lets it go. The Cloud Riders let it go.
And that's a stable version.
That's the what?
Yeah.
That's a stable version of the fuel, too.
Yeah, I know. And it explodes the mountain. I loved that. That it's just like, boom. I was like, holy shit, the mountain.
It was so cool.
So, yeah, no, I really like that. And then they land and they're trying to figure out what to do. I guess it's the same planet. They're on the same planet because it's still snowy. You know, one thing I missed about Rogue One was that they actually put the names of the planets on the screen.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
I was like, where am I? Yeah. What am I doing? What planet am I on? So they go and Tobias hits him in the face really hard, which was kind of satisfying. I don't know why. He's got a hittable face, maybe.
Well, and young Han Solo just he did a lot of things that made his face more punchable.
Yeah, he had a punchable face, and Chewie kind of let it happen.
Yeah, he knew. He knew he had that coming.
Yeah, he had it coming.
He was an overeager kid in that movie.
Yeah,
he was that tag along friend every one of us has, that everything's an 11. This is going to be the greatest thing ever.
Yes.
Shut up.
Yeah. And then they resolved to like go and face the Dryden Voss gangster and beg for forgiveness / let's try to solve this problem, And so they head to the ship, that's a cool ship.
Yeah, his yacht.
Yeah, his yacht.
I love they called it a yacht.
And it has like the elevator, and they go in, check their weapons, kind of standard. It felt kind of like a nightclub.
The music felt very nightclubby.
Yeah. And then we get the most amazing source music, which is now added to the source music of the Cantina and Jabba Flow, which is like the source music from The Force Awakens. We get this most amazing source music of like this nightclub singer with this singing frog.
It was funny.
Which is really cool.
It was really funny.
Yeah. I really liked it. I liked the like kind of nightclub feel of it, but really it was just like an entertainment party yacht room. Mm-hmm. And we get I liked Tobias's keep your eyes down.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are not your friends. Don't talk to anybody.
There was the kind of thing that you like you're taking your, I don't know, the person that you've taken under your wing to like.
You're taking your kid brother to the bar.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally had that feel. And he's just like trying to do it, but like then like
but
he
he's
runs
in
into
awe.
Kira.
This is something he's never seen before. There's all this happening around him.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of shiny in
Wasn't
that
there
room.
like a funny gag with Chewbacca and the drinks? Like he took 2 drinks or something.
Yeah, and it spilled on his fur.
Well, because they said, what should we drink to? And Han said, well, let's drink 2 and see what happens. So Chewie has 1, 2.
And then it was like down his front of his face, which was awesome.
Yeah, I gave him the milk mustache.
Yeah.
So cute.
And Kira, that intro, man, that 1950s feel of that place and her, and had a very Casablanca vibe.
Really speakeasy.
I love
like.
that.
Mm-hmm. And like
Lord and Miller kept telling, apparently, from what I read from the interviews and whatnot, she said that they kept telling her to play. Lord and Miller, right, the directors previously, said, play it film noir. Play it film noir. And she was like, that's not a note. I can't do anything with that as an actress. Well,
yes,
she can with Ron Howard's direction. Like, yeah, I think Lord and Miller, they understand styles and they understand tropes. But when it came to directing, like a feeling and an expression that an actor has to give, and that's what actors ask for when they're on set. And Ron Howard was an actor. Like, he is an actor. He knows what it means to be in the scene. He understands how that translates to the scene from a director's standpoint as well. So, but that's something that she complained about, and that's fascinating because I got the film noir, but I got something totally different from her as an actress. I got like a real human being and not just a theme, not just a genre, I guess.
And that's really interesting that you brought up this like trope thing that Lord and Miller did, which is like, yeah, maybe that's the scenes that felt very tropey to James and I are because they were like, well, play it like this, play it like Gangsterland, and maybe those were the scenes that were still in, and the actors were given these notes of, well, just imagine you're in a 1950s detective movie or a 1940s detective movie. It's like, that's not a note.
What am I supposed to do with that?
That's great.
No, that's something that she complained about. So,
because film noir is very, it has its own trope language to it. However, when you're an actor playing in that genre, what it is everybody has secrets upon secrets upon secrets and layers to themselves that they have to view the world through all of these competing priorities. And it's very dark, and there's a lot of internal thoughts to get through to actually respond.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like, you know, Ron Howard knows how to tap into the who, what, where, when, why of, you know, an actor, and like, or the character. You know, they get the character, what the character needs to do, what the character needs to feel in every scene, in every frame. I think that's the biggest thing, right? When you're an actor, you have to understand what's in the frame, what's in what you're expressing in the frame. And that's something that he gets. And that's something that was really accomplished in whatever Ron did with this. I think that was accomplished with his version of the film. So, as just an aside.
No, I think that was good. And yeah. What did you guys think of James? Any thoughts on this?
I kind of like the scene. I like the fact that you combine that with the next scene coming up, and you could actually almost see her switching. Like,
yeah.
There's like two people, one body idea. She's like, oh, dealing with the body. Like, that when it first happened, I was like, wait, hold on. She was suddenly very happy to see Han, and now she's kind of what the and
yeah.
And then it's like, oh, she's and they explain that, you know, later in the movie with what's going on, and I'm like,
and they
okay, all the pieces are in place.
And they often describe this as compartmentalization, right, from a psychological perspective, in that like you have to be who you are in different situations and like lock those feelings away, and we see that very clearly in the end of the movie.
And that's, I think, what was a part of the interview that I read with Emilia Clarke, was that she had a really hard time with that character because of that, like showing to the audience how you feel at the time that, like you're saying, she's compartmentalizing things, so she feels different things at different times that are contradictory. So that's hard. Like, that's difficult. And not having the right director to lead you to those emotions at the right times, especially when you film things out of order, or you reshoot things or whatever, like that's very difficult for an actor to do. So I found that fascinating.
I think she did really well. I really liked her in this movie. I considering like how many layers they had to dig through, comparing her to what I know her the best from, which is Game of Thrones. This was like so much thicker of a role to play.
And my husband will say this too, because he loves her in Game of Thrones. Like, every time she comes on the screen, he's like, oh yes, of course, because she's beautiful, right? But he loved her in this movie because she felt so much more real, and she felt like vulnerable more so than her character, you know, that he's seen her on with Game of Thrones. So, but I like it. I like, oh God, I'm so glad we'll probably get a lot of extended universe stuff with her, and possibly another film.
Thank you everyone for listening to What the Force. This has been the part 1 of our solo review. We can be found at WT Force Show on Twitter, or whattheforce.ca for our website. And we're available wherever podcasts are found. Cheers.